All right, we're trying out something a little bit different today, as there's no Bruins game to recap. We are in the middle of the Olympic break. In fact, I just finished watching USA beat Denmark with Jeremy Swayman getting absolutely pumped in the net for US, letting a guy score from about 100 feet out, which is just insanity. But that's not the focus of today. Today, I want to do like an individual player breakdown with this abundance of time I have in between making kind of the standard post-game recap videos. I want to try my hand at something else. So today we're breaking down what I have considered potentially the Toronto Maple Leafs' greatest gift to Boston fans since 2013. And that comes in the form of one, Fraser Minten. So this is a Bruins player that I've really enjoyed watching play this season. I think with the narrative of the Bruins having a wildly different look the last couple of years compared to pretty much like the decade and a half before that. You know, you had all the standard names. You had the Charas, the Bergerons, the Marchands, the Krejcis, the guys that were just legacy Bruins. And all of that's kind of gone aside from David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, and I'd say a little bit more recently in that list, Jeremy Swayman. Aside from kind of those three pieces that felt pretty untouchable, and even at moments felt like there were rumblings of rumors and trade stuff going on. But outside of those three, it's kind of been an entire switch up of this Bruins lineup. And Fraser Minten has been one of the guys to just jump to the front of that and be a super exciting player to watch. Also, in a return for one of the like 5 moves that Boston made at the trade deadline last year that just plunged daggers into my heart as I watched pretty much everyone I knew and loved from this Bruins team walk away. And we got Fraser Minten and a first round pick in return for a 4th in Brandon Carlo, who's having a pretty bad season with Toronto, hasn't really lived up to his defensive expectations. Toronto itself is not doing particularly well this year, and that's kind of another thing we'll talk about at the beginning here because it gets into the implications of that first round pick we got from Toronto. So it is a first round pick, but it is top 5 protected. And I read that and I was like, oh yeah, of course it's a first round pick that's top 5 protected. And then I realized I don't actually fully understand how the NHL lottery and everything works. So I did some research beforehand to make sure I actually know what I'm talking about for the first time, maybe ever, in one of these videos. And as it suggests, this protects Toronto's pick if they are to select within the top 5 in the 2026 NHL entry draft. So we are now in this position where Toronto's been pretty bad. They are several points outside of a wild card spot and probably aren't a team that's just going to outright tank at this point in the season. I think their fans would never let them hear the end of it. And as we all know from the many reports, it is unbelievably brutal to play in Toronto and kind of the expectations that come with that. So I doubt this is a team that's just going to plunge to the bottom. But we now live in this scenario where we want the Leafs to be bad, not only because it's funny, but because it is of direct benefit to the Bruins organization. But they need to walk this fine line where they are bad enough to get a high pick, but not so bad that they have really good odds of getting a top 5 pick, because if they select 1 through 5 or they get that top 5 pick assigned to them via the NHL lottery system, we don't get that pick. So we want anything 6th or later. Obviously, the higher the better, but you get to towing a really fine line when it gets to those top 5 picks. So basically, depending on how bad you are, you have a better chance of landing the higher overall picks, but not guaranteed. The team with the worst record will have the highest percentage for the first round pick, and then it descends from there for, I believe, the top 16 teams. I think it's every team that doesn't make playoffs. I know I just said I looked this up, and I've forgotten, of course, half of what I read. Basically, all of that saying we need the Leafs to be bad, but not so bad that they get a top 5 pick. So all of that tangent was to say that aside from Fraser Minten, who's been great return on his own for that trade, we have the potential for a very high pick, but of course we do not want it to land in top 5, as that will negate the Bruins getting that first round pick. So that is part of the trade. The other part is the actual purpose of this entire video, and that's Fraser Minten, who is, in my research of this, one of just 3 Bruins who has played in all 57 games this season. He's averaging 14 minutes and 52 seconds, so almost a clean 15 minutes a night, putting up contributions really up and down this lineup that has been a hodgepodge of where kind of everyone on this roster lives right now. With injuries, has been playing up on those first and second lines more recently. Beginning of the season, you saw him typically on that third or fourth line, so it's hard to say he's a first liner or second liner or third liner, because he's kind of just been up and down the entire roster. Not really for any purpose other than just filling in the gaps where they are. It's not like he's played like shit. We put him on the fourth line. He's played better. We put him on the second line. Just given the nature of this Bruins team, he's bounced up and down the entire lineup. He also leads all Bruins with 2 overtime goals. He's the only Bruin with 2 overtime goals. All others that have overtime goals just have 1. And he's tied for 4th on the overall team with 14 goals, behind kind of the big boys, as you could guess with that, the David Pasternaks, the Morgan Geekies of the world, and is tied for 6th on the team with 29 points overall, and really just having a great season. A great, technically rookie season. He has played in, it looks like 2 other seasons, in 2023-24 with the Maple Leafs, and then a little bit in 2024-25 with the Maple Leafs, a few games at the end of that 24-25 season with the Bruins, but this is his first full NHL season. And like I mentioned, playing all 57 games so far, which is great to see on a Bruins team where a few other members of the team have actually played every game this season, including some of our best players. So it's really great to see, especially with the younger guy, getting all of that time on the ice, all of that exposure, getting to play every single night, getting used to that ramped up NHL schedule, which is a lot more demanding than any sort of junior league hockey or any collegiate AAA or in the OHL, anything like that. And seems to be physically stepping right up to the demands of that 82 game season, especially with a condensed schedule. Is a crazy way to start your first full NHL year, with a schedule condensed because of the Olympics. In addition to being a pretty reliable member of the team up and down that lineup, he's jumped onto that second power play unit as well with injuries to Lindholm and Zacha, and he's seen good shifts there as well. I like him just getting more looks on the puck, and this is something I've just liked in general, is he's getting a lot of time on the ice and in a lot of different situations, which I think is fantastic. For a long time, I think the Bruins were so good and had such a great core of players that rarely would you see kind of these younger guys stepping up. Like the ones that jump to mind for me are like the Tyler Sagans of the world. And even that was a long time ago, kind of dating myself there. So it's great to see now that the Bruins have kind of torn it down and tried to rebuild a little bit, these younger guys. I mean, Fraser Minten's 21 years old, getting great exposure in the NHL and really stepping into a great role, showing his skill as a really good shooter, somebody who's able to score, able to get on the scoreboard with assists as well, and just put up decent minutes every single night. It's really good to see. Looking back through, I was trying to find some highlights to throw in this video of his 14 goals, and you can just see in a lot of these highlights, he's getting to the right spots on the ice. He's getting into that center, those high scoring chance areas. In some of those clips where he's playing on the top line, it's really easy for a guy like him to get lost defensively on a line that includes David Pastrnak and Morgan Geekie, who Geekie's got over 30 goals. Pasta's going to get there very soon. You have to respect the shooters so much in those two that I think it allows for someone like Fraser Minten to get a little bit lost, get into some of those softer areas on the defense. But he has that same insane shot and ability to pick corners, pick the right spot, or just absolutely blast the puck by the goalie in some of these. I will have to find the specific highlight I watched a couple nights ago when I was prepping for this video, where he just shoots a rocket. Like, he doesn't even beat the goalie by placing the puck perfectly. It just blasts by the goalie. Those abilities to get in the right spots on the ice and have a great shot are things that show to me it's really promising for Fraser Minten, and continuing to play as a strong piece of this kind of new look Boston Bruins team that we've seen a lot of this season, and gets me really excited for the future of the Bruins. I think I was probably at the lowest of lows as a Bruins fan when they made all those deadline moves the previous season, just watching it all burn down on a season that should have been a lot better and wasn't. You know, watching the likes of Brad Marchand, Brandon Carlo, Trent Frederick, one of my favorite Bruins, all just getting moved. I think seeing how quickly this team has turned around to be not only competitive, but looking like they have a real chance at a playoff spot and being able to put together really good hockey on a lot of nights. And that, they have a lot of bad nights too, but being a much better team than I think anybody, myself included, anticipated for this season. And Fraser Minten's been a big part of that. I want to note here that he had only 5 points in 25 total games in the NHL before this. And so I think it's safe to say with that, playing 57 games, 29 points, he's really starting to break out and benefit from having a full season, hopefully get to see out the rest of the season as well. And gaining that NHL experience, like I said, it's fun to see those younger Bruins on the ice. We're getting to the point where, Fraser Minten's 21, Marat Husnadinov, I think, is 23. We have a lot of younger guys that I think mesh well with some of the veterans who have been not only veterans from our team, but veterans coming in from other teams as well, and bringing some life and I think some hope to the future of the Bruins. It's great to see that these guys are stepping up, getting to play a bigger role in the team and performing. Not only just like, the team sucks, but our young guys are getting experience. Like, they're big parts of a team that's really bounced back. I mean, Fraser Minten did what every great Maple Leaf has done when they leave, and that is go back to Toronto and score a big goal when it matters. He had a goal against the Maple Leafs that kind of put a game out of reach, making it 5-3 late in the third. He had the hometown boost, getting 2 goals in his home city of Vancouver, including the game winner in overtime. I think he's really stepped up to that NHL caliber, and I'm just really excited to see Fraser Minten finish out the rest of this season and see where it goes from there. It's one of those guys that I'm hoping proves he can do it at the NHL level this year, maybe next year, gets a deal and sticks around for a while, because he's got a lot of aspects like that shot, like that ability to find the right places on the ice that, and I can't pretend to even begin to be an NHL scout, but things that as just a fan, I really like seeing and give me some promise for the younger folks in this Bruins team. So I'm very excited and kind of wanted to make this video to talk about it and also to just thank the Leafs organization for this gift, because this could go down. And it's hard because you're competing with an unbelievable line of awful trades to the Bruins for the Leafs. Like looking it up, I was like, what did this trade include? And I got all the information. And then it had a list of all the other past trades where the Bruins have just robbed the Maple Leafs. So I'm not sure that this will be like the greatest Bruins Leafs trade ever, because there have been so many that have benefited the Bruins greatly. But just another to add to the list, certainly. And I think we'll walk away at the end of this season where saying, Fraser Minten and a 4th for Brandon Carlo, who's kind of playing poorly, isn't the worst trade for a team that needs some of this young offense. But the fact that there's also a potential, top 10, top 15 pick in addition to the Bruins' own first-round pick for this season, also as part of this trade. Like, you get a NHL caliber player who's a young guy who can step in and hopefully kind of work up the ranks and prove that he can play on that second line, third line for just consistent minutes every single night. And you also get potentially a fantastic prospect. So we will be monitoring that whole Leaf situation much more closely as we move down the stretch, as it's now very much in the forefront of my mind and will be something that I think about as I see results come in. So we weirdly want the Leafs to try to stay competitive, but kind of suck, but not suck that badly. And that's the MO going forward for the rest of the season, but also just excited to see what Fraser Minten and the Bruins can do when they get back from the Olympic break and close out really the last month and change of the season ahead of potential NHL playoffs.